Perfect, thank you very much for joining me. Yes, my name is Sean and you are watching MLS Ireland Does Predictions from this week. There was a week last week which I forgot to do because there was like 3 games on, so stay tuned. Perfect, thank you very much for joining me. Yes, my name is Sean, and if you're new to this, hit that subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. I'm also on Patreon, but it doesn't really matter. There's a link in below. Doesn't really matter. So yep, I know there was a couple of games on last week, 3. I did completely not miss them, but I did forget they were wrong. Charlotte beat Cincinnati. To be fair, is that an interesting game? Sporting Kansas City, Johnny Russell scored against Real Salt Lake on a 1-0 win. And Portland drew with 10 men, getting a penalty in the last 10 minutes to draw against Orlando. So is that really? Could I predict those? Probably could. So anyway, here I am. Thank you very much for joining me, and I may as well crack on with the first one, which was Chicago Fire against FC Dallas. Now this is like 5th against 10th. Chicago Fire hired, bought a couple of good players. They're starting to show their what they're trying to do with a 3-0 win over Sporting Kansas City 2 weeks ago, and then beating DC United away from home the last time before that. So not too bad. Their last games after that were like 0-0s against teams like you would. Well, against Inter, you probably would have expected them to beat Inter. And the FC Dallas, who are on a similar kind of run, they won their last 2 against beating Nashville 2-0 and beating Portland 4-0, which is a pretty impressive result. Although Chicago Fire at home, they have probably the more experienced players. I went like for a 1-0 win to Chicago Fire, just for the fact is that they have experienced players. And they're starting to probably look what they're trying to do. Is they're going to be their season? It's hard to know at this early stage, but I like to think that they are. They just need to go back to the red top. But anyway, the next one is FC Cincinnati against Montreal. I like the way I did that. FC Cincinnati is not bottom, which is pretty impressive. They've won 2 games. They were against Orlando and Inter Miami. Then could beat Charlotte. But anyway, they're coming up against a Montreal team who are 3rd from bottom. So they got a bad cold. Yeah, they're not doing all that great this season. Their last away game was against Atlanta, and that was 3-3. Their one before that, they got beat 4-1 by New York City SC. So their away record is hopeless. And they're coming up against the SC Cincinnati team, who are all over the place. They're not just there yet, but I went for 2-1 to FC Cincinnati. I think Montreal's a bad team, basically. The next one is Toronto against New York City SC. Toronto, who are another not great team, did beat DC United last week at home. That was 2-1, or 2 weeks ago, sorry. Which was a bit of a surprise. But anyway, they're coming up against a very good team in New York City FC, who are only a couple of places up above. And they've only won the 1 game, and that was against FC Montreal. Now, this is probably going to come down to who's fit, really. Toronto should possibly get a good result in this one, but I think New York City are still a far better team. So I went for like a 2-1 win. New York City should possibly easily win this one, quite possibly. So yeah, I went for like a 2-1 win. I know New York City have the better players, and Toronto probably are still. I think that kind of win, and then the international break came at the wrong time. So I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win. The next one was Columbus Crew against Nashville. Now, Columbus Crew are 4th in the league, haven't lost a game, won their home games and drew their away games. And now they're coming up against the Nashville team, who they're not doing a great deal this season. They won their first game against Seattle, which was pretty impressive. Drew against Minnesota away, which wasn't too bad. I know their games are all away at the moment because their stadiums to be opened up, but still. Then they got beat by Dallas and Real Salt Lake, which isn't all that great. So unfortunately for them, I do think it's going to be another loss. So I went for like a 2-1 win to Columbus Crew. They're Nashville, all these away games are probably not helping. I know they have now had a break, so this maybe suit them a wee bit better, but I think Columbus Crew are a better team at this moment in time. The next one is DC United. DC United against Atlanta, which I do think is going to be a good wee game. Atlanta, who are 12th, and DC United, who are 13th. Not too bad, both within a point off each other. Atlanta scoring 8 and letting in 8, whereas DC United have scored 5 and then letting 4, not too bad. Well, it's hard to tell who's got a better record coming into this game because they're both kind of similar. I think whereas DC United have probably lost 2 games, whereas Atlanta have lost only 1. So I went for like a 2-2 draw. I think these two teams are capable of scoring a lot of goals. Their defense is still uninspiring at the moment, so I went for a 2-2. They got goals in them. Next one is New England Revolution against New York Red Bulls. New England, again, Champions League, not doing very well. Well, they're out of it, aren't they? Well, that's the reason why they're not doing so well. Now they're coming up against the New York Red Bulls team, who did do very well, so they got beaten by Minnesota. And then they drew against Columbus Crew, which is a very good result. Now they're coming up against the New England team, who, as I said, are not doing very well, but they have a very good team. I went for like a 1-1. These two teams are, I think the two teams are suited for each other. I think New York Red Bulls kind of high pressing will probably suit New England's possession based kind of game, like. So I think this is going to be an interesting one. I went for like a 1-1. It should be a good game. I'm looking forward to that one if it's on early enough, which I doubt that it is. Let me see. The next one is Orlando against LAFC, who are top of the league. Interesting. And Orlando's 6th, both a game in hand. Basically, they drew against Portland, like I said, and then they beat LA Galaxy away from home. Their last home game was a loss against Cincinnati, but they beat Montreal the very first game of the season. So, coming into this one, I like to see Pato, like against Portland, he was a wee bit quiet, but there was moments that you go, alright, this is the reason why he's a very good player, but I think he needs to find his feet. I do think he'll find his feet in this game. I think this is a game that's going to be a game that he could be up for. So, try to burp. Done it very professionally. I do think he's going to be up for this game. It's a good game to be having against. So I went for a 2-2. Orlando at home should possibly have a good backing by the fans, and LAFC, who won their last away game, and that was against Inter, but they're going into Miami. Yeah. Florida. There, sure. They're going into Florida with a good result the last time, so I do think they're going to get 2 goals, so I'm going to go for like a 2-2. The next one is Philadelphia against Charlotte. Charlotte won their last 2 games. Congratulations to them. They're now up to 15th in the league. They beat New England 3-1, which is pretty impressive. They beat Cincinnati, which is good. Now they're away again when they lost to Atlanta the last time. They're away. Now they're coming up against the Philadelphia team, who are 2nd. Started off the season a bit rocky against Minnesota, 1-0. And then they beat Montreal away. Earthquakes at home. And then they beat New York City FC away. Now they're coming up against the Charlotte team, who I do think they should probably beat. So I went for like a 2-0 win. Philadelphia are just a far too good of a team to be basically dropping points against the Charlotte team, who are full of confidence, but they are going to be away from home, away from their beloved fans. So I went for like a 2-0 win. The next one is San Jose Earthquakes against Austin FC. Now, Austin FC started off the season very well, winning 5-0, 5-1 against Cincinnati against Inter. But then they got beat by Portland and then drew against Seattle, which wasn't too bad. And then they're coming up against this Earthquake teams who haven't won yet, and their only point was a 3-3 draw at home against Columbus, which isn't too bad. But they got beat by Minnesota away from home and Philadelphia away from home 2-0, but their last one was at 3-3 against Columbus Crew, which isn't too bad. I went for like a 2-1 win to Austin. I know that was a bit of a weird one. Austin, I do think, are a very good team. They're doing very well. I know their last 2 results wasn't great for them. Granted, one was it wasn't too bad actually. Portland won 1-0 and they drew against Seattle. So Yeah, I'm going to stick for the 2-1. I think Austin are a better team, so I'm going to go for that. The next one is Inter Miami against Houston Dynamo. Now that one's going to be a good one. Inter Miami, who are bottom of the league, against Houston Dynamo, who won one game and are up to 19th. They drew against Colorado Rapids, which is a good result. They beat Vancouver 2-1, which is a good result. Got beaten by Sporting Kansas City, which is not a bad, all things considered. And drew against Real Salt Lake at the start of the season, which is, you can tell, it doesn't really mean anything the first game of the season. So I went for a 1-all. I do think these two teams are capable of beating each other. When I mean beating each other, beating themselves up basically. But I went for a 1-all because I don't think Inter Miami have it in them. They've only scored 2 goals this season, which isn't great. Whereas Houston Dynamo have only scored 3 but let in 3, so that's not great either. So I'm going for a cheap 1-all. Sorry. The next one is Minnesota against Seattle Sounders. Minnesota, basically every time I spoke about their name, there was a 1-all beside it constantly. Minnesota, I do like Minnesota. I do like their stadium now. To be fair, they're coming up against a very good team, Seattle Sounders, who are not doing all that great at the moment. They are 21st in the league. They've only won one game. That was against LA Galaxy. They drew against Austin. Got beat by Real Salt Lake and Nashville at the start of the season. So not very good. And so Minnesota, they won their last 2 games against New York Red Bulls 1-0, and Minnesota beat San Jose Earthquakes 1-0. So their home record isn't too bad. Well, their away record isn't too bad either. 1-1 drew 1 basically. So they're coming up against the Seattle Sounders team, who I predicted for Minnesota to win 1-0. I don't think Seattle Sounders are a very strange team. They start the season off quite badly and then they go on to win the bloody thing. So this is nothing new to them. So I think Minnesota should probably win this 1-0. 1-0. The next one is Vancouver against Sporting Kansas City. We're getting there. Vancouver, who haven't won a game all bleeding season, but they drew against New York City SC. They got beaten by LAFC. They got beaten by Houston Dynamo, both away from home. But this is a game that their second game at home against the Sporting Kansas City team, who are in the middle of the road. They haven't even drew a game. They got beaten by Atlanta at home, then they beat Houston, and then away they got beaten twice. And then at home they beat Real Salt Lake. So they're very good at home, not all that great away from home. But they're coming up against a Vancouver team who you suspect them to win. So I went for a 1-0 win. They have Johnny Russell. They have a very good squad. Their away record isn't great, but I still go for a 1-0 win. I just think they're a far better team than Vancouver. Sorry. The next one is Colorado against Real Salt Lake. Now, Colorado always do very well. They always kind of sneak up the table very quietly. They got beaten at the very first game of the season. That was against the LAFC, who are top. But then they beat Atlanta, Sporting Kansas City, and drew against Houston Dynamo away from home. So, not too bad. Whereas Real Salt Lake, they're not doing all that great at the moment, I believe. Let me just find them. Who cares? They're third, so they're not doing all that great, to be fair. They're coming up against the Colorado Rapids team, who, it's not too bad. I do think Colorado Rapids should win this game. They're at home. I went for 2-0. But I like Colorado. I think Real Salt Lake are probably going to be this. It's going to be a game where they're away from home. They're not doing all that great, and even though that they beat New England, so 3-2. I think Colorado should probably have a good strong game into this one, so I went for 2-0. And now the last game is Portland Timbers against LA Galaxy. LA Galaxy, who are 14th, which isn't all that great for them. They started off the season good. Then they got beaten by Seattle and then beaten by Orlando. Portland, who are just a couple of places below them, only won the one game, and that was against Austin. So, and they didn't look all that great against Orlando too, as well. To be fair, they needed Barco to basically come on and kind of show them how to basically play football. But anyway, I went for a 1-0. Portland Timbers at home, put their fans behind them, should get a good result in this one. But I think LA Galaxy have a better team. Probably should get a good result in this one. I went for a 1 also. Perfect. Those were my predictions. Hope you enjoyed them. If you're new to this, as I said, hit the subscribe button if you made it this far. And I hope to see you on the next one. Bye now.